Hi, my name is Sean and welcome to this video in which I'm hopefully going to be able to show you how I managed to beat the Amazing Spider-Man. A little bit about the game. It was released in 1990 for the Game Boy, and despite LJN's grubby logo being slapped all over it, it was actually developed by Rare, the amazing UK-based company that brought you games such as Donkey Kong Country, Killer Instinct, Perfect Dark and all those great titles they did in the 90s. This is obviously one of their earlier games. And it's not exactly one of their best, you know, it's not one of their classic titles, but it does come complete with a David Wise soundtrack, so it's kind of worth playing for that alone, I think. So here we go on the first level. The controls in this game are pretty simple, but they're also a little bit tricky to get to sort of master. Quite simply, A jumps and B attacks. You can see if you, like I'm doing here, if you crouch and attack, then you sort of do this little low kick thing, and I find that's generally the safest way to kill most enemies, simply because they've got less chance of being able to attack you back. Those guys, you pop out the little manhole. The easiest way to deal with them is to just jump on the heads like I was doing there. And where this game gets a little bit tricky with the controls is with the jumping. Now, if you are standing still and you jump, you will do a sort of a short jump. Whereas if you are moving, and actually you need to be having taken a few steps and then jump, you do a much higher jump. And this is actually something that I think like throws a lot of people off, and it's one of the thing that makes this game tricky for people. Another thing you can do is you can swing from your webs, which is done by performing a high jump and continuing to hold the jump button. If you do that, then Spider-Man will start swinging from his web, and his little web meter, which is shown in the bottom right, it's the red bar at the bottom right, that will start depleting pretty fast. But that comes in necessary later. Anyway, so we're up to the first boss already, and as you can see, the key here is to just wait for him to vanish and reappear, and then try not to get too close to him, because if you touch him you take damage, but he only takes a few hits, so it's just best to just take your time and just make sure you're avoiding taking damage, and then just get close enough to just give him a good kick in the gonads. Now this second stage, we start climbing up a building. Now you see there, Spider-Man has these little spidey senses which tell you that an object is going to be falling at that point. So you want to be moving left and right to avoid those things. When you see those little spidey senses, just move across. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward really. You just try and avoid all the guys with baseball bats and avoid them, and just keep making your way up. You can attack, you can press B to attack here, but I find it's pretty much worthless. It's not really worth doing. Some of the windows will have hamburgers in them. Hamburgers, as you may have seen from the first stage, replenish your life bar. So if you see any of those and you need them, go ahead and grab it. When you get to that top open window, you need to press jump to actually enter. So here you can see I'm just making my way across again, and I'm doing this low kick so that I'm not getting attacked. So there you would need a big jump to get across that gap, and you saw me swing from the webs actually just accidentally there, just because I was holding on the jump button for a little bit too long, but that's not a problem. As I'm killing enemies, you'll see they're dropping things coming out of them, and that one, you hear that one made a noise. Now, so there are like 3 types of things that fall out of people. There's just standard ones, which I think are just points. Actually, maybe that's not true. Maybe I think they might upgrade your web shot as well, which is something I haven't shown you yet. But if you hold B, the attack button, then you will shoot a projectile web, and this seems to change throughout the game based on what you've picked up, I think. So sometimes it's just like a one-shot thing, and sometimes it's like more of a spread shot. But I'm not entirely sure how you go about upgrading it specifically, but I'm sure it's something to do with picking up the things that these guys drop. Now I know that there are two other things that they drop. One makes a noise that sort of sounds like a beeping noise. Now they're like that. So they're like safe to pick up, and then what that does is that gives you an extra refill. There's a whole nother canister, so you see where it says web and then a number to, you know, in the bottom right. That's how many refills I've got. So they're really important. So if you hear that noise, you want to collect it. Now the trouble is there's another pickup which sounds like almost like a car alarm, and that seems to revert your projectile weapon back to its sort of most basic form. So this is just a single projectile shot. So it's not the end of the world if you pick that up, but you ideally want to be avoiding these. So we're up to the second boss, which is the Hobgoblin. I think I'm not too like clued up on Marvel comics really, but as you can see, he's pretty easy to defeat. He does this same sort of pattern. Now you can see I'm waiting for him to drop down to the sort of bottom middle of the screen, and then I'm doing a little hop over there and then a low kick. Now if you miss, because he does actually disappear from there pretty damn quick, so if he missed, he would drop down the bottom of the screen and re-enter in the sort of bottom right. So what you want to do is, if you miss him by attacking him there, quickly turn the other way and do a low kick as he's coming in on the right hand side of the screen. So we're up to the subway level already, and here you want to be low kicking these guys who are sort of popping out the top of the train. These bats again, we just want to be low kicking them. Really the key to this game is not taking damage. That's how you're going to complete the game. There's a certain point where you will inevitably start taking damage, but the key is to not use a continue before that point, and the reason for that is you will lose all of your web canisters, and there's a level where you really need them. So for this level, we just need to be keeping our nose clean, and as you can see, one strategy that I'm doing here is by using my high jumps, I'm able to kind of traverse the top of the screen rather than being at the bottom where most of the enemies are, and you can see me using my web projectile thing there. And again, we just want to keep kicking these guys. And you would have noticed just before then, and also just coming up later in the level as well, there's more. So here I just want to be ducking. You can just avoid these bats. They just sort of fly down to that level, so they're no trouble really. And there's going to be a hamburger on a ledge coming up here. Now you can only reach this if you do a high jump, so you can actually walk backwards and then jump back the other way, and I find that's the easiest way to access that one. At this point in the game, the game's still pretty generous with the life refills, but later on that's not really the case, and they become really scarce. So you know, make the most of them while you've got them. So here we're up to the boss already, who is I think he's called Scorpion, and the trick here is to just let him shoot out his tail and then jump in with a little jump attack. It can be quite tricky because he sometimes attacks twice in a row, so you need to be quite accurate. It's very easy to get hit, and it's really important to not die on the bosses like I just did there, because when you defeat a boss, no matter what your health was up to, it will refill right to the top. So there, it was such a waste of a life because I didn't get hit after that point again, and had I have defeated him without dying, then I would still have a full health bar now. So that was a shame. So things start getting a little bit tricky here. So this is definitely a slow and steady type game. You don't want to be just blitzing ahead and just taking hits from all the enemies and just hoping to just kind of plow through it. It just doesn't work like that. You've got to kind of take your time and methodically work your way through all these enemies. The ones you can ignore, just ignore, and I find these little falling spike things is just best to just get close enough so they start falling and then just move back. And here again, you just want to be nice and steady, and then you can use the projectile shot like I did just there to shoot any dudes with guns who are hiding behind the trees. The things start getting tricky, as you can see, because there's lots of things happening on screen, and you just need to just do your best really. Just try and time your jumps to when the shots are being fired. so I got hit there, which is a shame, but there's a hamburger there anyway, so I was able to refill my life again. You see I've got 8 web refills in the bank at the moment, which is really useful, or it will be really useful. I think in the next stage, I think that's the one where you really need it, and you'll see why when we get to it. That's the noise of the bad one, what you just heard there, I think. So that's why I didn't pick that up. It's really satisfying to jump on those little manholes and squash the little mole thing underneath. I don't know why, but it just never stops being fun. This game really isn't a bad game. I actually quite enjoy it, especially once you kind of get into the swing of it and you start doing good runs at it. And you can see my projectile shots have been upgraded now, but actually it kind of hinders me in this stage a little bit, because it has a slightly different firing arc, which means it doesn't shoot neatly over those logs, so it's actually getting stuck on the logs, because as it goes out the shot kind of widens, so that's not great, but it's also not too much of a problem. Actually, that's the good noise, what that was. Anyway, so this is what's this guy called? Rhino. He's like a rhino guy, so probably called Rhino. And you see he runs backwards and forwards. Now, I remember from doing this playthrough, I was being super patient because I'd already lost a life on the last boss and I didn't want to do it again. And it's really tricky to get within striking range without taking damage. As you can see, I've already lost a lot of health. And it's really important for me to try and not die here. Sadly, the web projectiles just don't work on this guy. They actually just bounce straight off. Wow, so I took a load of damage there. Basically, it's not like you get hit and then you've got a little invincibility kind of window to recover yourself. The whole time you're touching the boss, you will be taking damage. So now it becomes a really arduous task of me just being really careful and trying to just get that distance exactly right, and I'm just not taking any chances at all. So apologies for this being a little bit slow. But you can see I'm just taking my time. There is no reason to particularly go fast or anything. There's no timer or anything to worry about. Now, there is a score in the bottom of this game. I don't actually know if it gives you more continues when you get to a certain point. I haven't noticed. I think you start with 3 continues, and per continue you have kind of 3 lives. So it's possible that I got an extra continue there at 100,000, but I'm not entirely sure. I did say this was slow, didn't I? And I meant it. But you can see it's just about finding that exact range where you can safely hit him but not be hit yourself. But actually there, what kind of happened was he starts moving quite slowly, so you could kind of stay a little bit away and just kick until you hit him and then jump over him, rather than doing what I was trying to do and hit him straight away. But you can see my health bar completely refilled then, so I'm back to having only lost 1 life and no health. So this is another building climbing stage, and this one's a lot more tricky than the last one. As you can see, you've got just lots of gunmen and lots of birds that kind of fly on, and the key here again, I mean, I haven't really tried to use my attack at all, because I just find it's just easier to just concentrate on just not getting hit. And the key is to just move around as much as possible, as long as you're not moving too close to the windows, because they can open and you get dudes with crowbars sort of popping out. So you're just looking for those just like little gaps, and they are really tiny little gaps. And this is just one of those stages where taking damage is kind of unavoidable, but you've just got to just do your best, really. And luckily there are these hamburgers refills along the way. kind of almost like a bullet hell game, really, this at this point, because there's just crap all over the screen and you're just desperately trying to avoid it all. So here and then jump in the window, and I just about survived without dying. So this is the tricky stage, the rooftop. So here's where we need, and I mean need, your web canisters, and that's because we have to use the web swinging to get across from rooftop to rooftop. So you can see there, so when you're swinging on your web, you can attack, and it's this little kick, and you generally, all the enemies are the right height, so that it's the right height for the kick. But it's just absolutely essential that you have enough canisters to actually make it your way across the rooftops, because otherwise you just die and die and die again, because you literally, when you run out of the sort of, you know, the web canisters or whatever, that's it. You can't use your web swinging ability at all, so there's just no way to get across the gaps. You just keep dying. So that's why it was so important to not use a continue up until this point. You can see it's very, very awkward. To get this high jump, you have to have moved enough. So you see me there, I was struggling to sort of get the swing to activate. You also don't want to jump too far ahead, because otherwise the birds kind of come into contact with you before you're swinging, and therefore you can't attack them. So here you can jump, sort of, if you can get the high jump, you can jump backwards like I did just there, just to get that hamburger. And another one there, they sort of stupidly placed, really, because you wouldn't really need two right next to each other like that. So again, this is a tricky one, because if you just go ahead and just jump, there's a chance that the web swinging thing won't actually activate. So you really want to be sure that you're swinging from your web before you leave the ledge. And it's important to note that if you get hit by the birds, you fall to your death. You don't just lose health and carry on swinging. And there, I just made just a dreadful mistake. It's kind of awkward, because as you're trying to jump across this little gap, you're hitting your head on the ledge above, which makes it really tricky, and I was just not careful enough there. And there you can see you've got to be careful with these falling platforms. They're a bit of a nightmare. It's a shame that I've lost the continue now, but it's not the end of the world, because I've sort of done most of the web swinging bits, and so I've got enough to carry on. But ideally, you really want to be not using a continue until you finish this whole stage. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. But you can see how quickly it goes down, and now I've only got one canister after this current one. So it goes down to 0 as well. So you've got a 0 canister. But you can see it just drains so fast. That's why it's just so crucial to keep the ones you've sort of collected up until this point. So I've got to be really conservative now and really careful. But we're at the boss now. So this is Dr. Octopus, right? And he's very, very tricky. He would have been a lot easier if I would have still had all my web canisters, because I could have just burnt the whole lot in attacking him. I could have just stood here and just shot until he was dead, basically. But unfortunately, I haven't got enough to be able to do that now. So I'm going to do that for what I have got left, and then I'm going to have to sort of fight him in hand-to-hand combat, which is much harder, because I think it's basically impossible to do that without taking a lot of damage, because even if I were to jump behind him when he's sort of facing the other way, he immediately turns around. The second you hit him, he immediately snaps back round and attacks you back. So I think it's basically impossible to attack him without being attacked back, unless you're using the web shot. So ideally, if you can, you want to be able to get to him with loads and loads of canisters left, to be able to just shoot him down. So now I'm at the point where I'm having to fight him in hand-to-hand combat, and you can see every time I jump down there and attack him, he just immediately turns around. See there, I didn't hit him, so he didn't turn around immediately. Yeah, no, still not. Again, I'm trying to be ridiculously careful, like I was with the Rhino boss. I really like this boss theme though. It's a pretty cool chiptune, and there's a lot of good music in this game, I think. I think at a certain point I decided to kind of just kamikaze it. Yeah, I think at this point, because I realised that there's just no way to do this neatly, so I may as well just get him down before I die, and then my health bar will refill anyway. So now we're on to the final stage, and this is an absolute killer. So this is really a war of attrition, and I never really got the hang of how to do this stage well. I think really the key is to just have enough continues so that you don't really need to do that well. But some little tips are to hop across the water, because if you try and walk, you walk really, really slowly. And so just doing these little hops helps you traverse those bits quicker, so you're not getting hit so much by the crocodiles and whatnot. And obviously you want to kind of jump kick those guys down, and just always be on the lookout, be looking out your kind of peripheral vision for those crocodiles that are coming across the screen quickly. It's all too easy to kind of not be concentrating on them, be concentrating on something else. But this is just one of those stages where just taking damage is just pretty much unavoidable. There's just so much happening on screen that it's just really, really tough, that you've just got to just do what you can really. But ultimately this is almost like a just a kind of a rush to the end. So luckily I've still got continues in hand, so it's not too big of a deal at the moment. And the stage isn't too long either. You can see I'm just getting absolutely mullered here, but it's just, there's not a lot you can do about it. But as long as you haven't been burning through your continues, you should be alright. So hard to time these little gaps with the with those little falling rocks. So here we are up to the last boss, which is Venom. So you got to basically jump over his webs, and I find the best way is to stand in the bottom left and just low kick him as he kind of drops down on his web. And you do occasionally take damage, but a lot of the time you don't take damage. It's a little bit hit and miss, but it's reasonably safe. And you can see I'm sort of chipping away at him. I'm not taking any damage at the moment. And here it's just, you know, I probably shouldn't have been trying to shoot in there. I should have just been just not taking damage. But I opted to kind of take a shot at him. And again, there it's just silly, really. I should just be avoiding when he's on that side of the screen. I think it's pretty much random as to the which side he comes down on. I don't think there's really like a pattern or anything to his movement. So I died again, unfortunately, but I've still got one more continue left, and that means another 3 lives or something. So I'm pretty comfortable, because he's already down halfway. It's really not too difficult to avoid his attacks. I was being very, very sort of carefree and sloppy with that last life. I could have probably done it without taking any hits. So if you are on your last continue, you know it's not too difficult. So I think I'll be able to get him before I lose this life. And I think that might be it. There he goes. So when he dies, he just drops down the middle there, and this really horrific looking Mary Jane kind of pops down. And I think at this point Spider-Man's having second thoughts about the whole thing. And you get a load of pointless score as well. But, you know. And here we are. The amazing ending of The Amazing Spider-Man. As I say, really not a bad game at all. Quite tricky. A lot of people seem to struggle with this. We played it for the Game Boy Players League in February, and only myself and one other person managed to complete it. And from sort of YouTube comments and things of playthroughs of this, I've seen a lot of people say they used to have it as a kid and could never beat it, and maybe have tried since and they still can't beat it. So that's why hopefully this video will be of use for some people. So thanks for watching. Actually, just one more thing. If you're interested in knowing more about the Game Boy Players League, I'll pop some links in the description of this video so you can check that out. And let me know if this video was useful to you, and if you'd like me to do it for any other games. Maybe there's a game you're struggling with, or that you'd like to see me beat. So if there is, pop it in the comments below and I will try and get around to it. But thanks for watching.